Hey guys, this is El Hermano Pan, and just wanted to share, I guess, my testimony of exactly how I got to Mexico. And yeah, so we're going to start basically just at the birthplace, I guess, of where this dream kind of really formed, where the seed was planted. And that was at least a local church for me where I'm from, at a church called Faith Fellowship, and it was at their youth group, which was Wednesday nights. And I was 12 years old, and a lot of stuff happened in this one service. So first, I can't remember it very well, but they had talked about how they had went on this missions trip to Mexico. And my eyes, I don't know, 12-year-old me was very fascinated by that. I don't think I was a very curious kid by any means. I don't think I was any more special or more curious than other kids just about life and just questions that I maybe had. Of course, I had them. But yeah, they started talking about it. I was like, man, whoa, Mexico, like a different country, a different people, like a different language, like everything is just different, a whole different world. And it really opened my, something clicked to me. I was like, man, I want that. I want to go and meet new people and befriend them and be a part, be with them, walk alongside with them. It was kind of like this, just a big desire. And so again, this was my first youth group, and the youth pastor is an absolute, incredible, faithful man. He's actually the most faithful Christian man or person in that regard, just that I've ever met in my life until today. So I was 12 years old, I'm 31. So what is that, 19 years later, I still haven't met a person like Pastor Eric. And that's a whole long story, or maybe maybe not long, but it's just an absolute incredible man. I've never met anyone like him. Like Jesus, when he gave kind of his list of who would be number one, and it was John the Baptist, I am convinced that Pastor Eric is number one. That's how much I look up to this man. He's just absolutely incredible, humble, and he's actually the now pastor. He was the youth pastor for maybe 2 decades. I don't know, maybe close to 2 decades. Anyways, and so I'm at the youth group where he is the youth pastor, and he's preaching, and the music really hit me hard too. I had my first real encounter, my real first experience that was real for me, and how my faith kind of came alive was at that service as well. So one, my eyes are open to this, whoa, there's another country with all these cool things about that. And I was like, man, that'd be awesome. I want that. And then two, the Lord spoke to me, and it wasn't an audible voice, but it was he had spoken in my mind. And in that time, so 12-year-old me, I was dealing with some unforgiveness in my heart. And I was crying during worship. Worship was just so it was different. It was my first youth group, okay? And the church that my parents would take me along, the worship was different. It was an older congregation, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I never really connected with it during that time. And so when I went to this youth group, it was just hitting me so hard. And man, what was the song where I really broke down? It was, take me to that place, Lord, to that secret place where I can be with you and you can make me like you. Wrap me in your arms, wrap me in your arms, wrap me in your arms. That song, I remember it, and it, I was just bawling my eyes out. And I just had so much unforgiveness, and I was thinking about it, And then all of a sudden, just this voice in my head was like, Brett, I forgave you. And that was it. It was, Brett, I forgave you. 4 words. And that was like my first, whoa, God has spoken to me moment. Like God became real in that moment. And so this youth group, just an absolute like life-changing event. Really, I can say that today, because there, and after that youth service, I was like just thinking about Mexico, 12-year-old me, I was like, man, I want to go. Like, I want to go and make a difference. I want to go be a part of them. I want to go help them. Like just all these different like things. Like I want to go to Mexico, learn the language. Like I want to be with them. I just felt like I belonged. Like I wanted to go there. That it was for me. And so fast forward, we're going to fast forward as far as I can. So I am graduated from college, 2.5 years working already after college. And I like had planned, I was like, all right, I'm going to Mexico. So this is when I was like 25, maybe turning 26. So 13 years later, that seed that was planted was coming into fruition, and it was a wild time. People close to me were in disagreement. They're like, this is not a good idea. My dad spoke to me individually, I think twice. I want to say maybe 3 times, but like individual, like, hey, let's sit down. I want to talk to you, like one-on-one twice. He's like, Brett, this is not a good idea. I don't think you should do this. Like, you should not do this. Like, very direct like that. Sit down, one-on-one. Brett, this is not a good idea. Don't do this. So I have like, everything like is kind of, everyone's just like, no, we don't know. It's either no, or we don't know, or this is sketchy, but I can't decide for you. And so I was really the only one who was very like convinced, like, yes, this is what I have to do. I left my government job and just left all of that. I could have put a down payment on a home. I could have really began my life, maybe found a wife, did all of that. And that was kind of something that my dad was talking to me about. And he wasn't wrong. In a sense, like I could have bought a house, and I could have started a life. So I really don't throw away his advice at all. It was just not what the Lord had for me. And so anyways, I come to Mexico. Oh, and I'm forgetting the very poetic part. I apologize. So in my search, so while I'm telling everyone, hey, I want to go to Mexico. Hey, I'm going to do this. And my family starts talking to me, and I start we're having all these conversations, and I'm looking for a place to go. And I start reaching out to people who I know maybe have a connection to Mexico, whether that is friends from church. I'd been part of multiple churches, so I had multiple friends within different churches, and I reached out to them. And Pastor Eric was the big one that I reached out to. I think he was maybe the last person. There's maybe 2 other people that I reached out to first, and then I was like, let's go to Pastor Eric. And I went to Pastor Eric. He recommended me a place, an organization that is an orphanage / church / like an entire school. So like elementary school, junior high, high school, and a daycare. And so Pastor Eric's recommendation, I send in you apply, they accept me. I was like, you know what, let's go. And I go there. So when I'm 12 years old and this idea was birthed, this desire, my heart had kind of turned on something in me wanting to go to Mexico, was birthed at the church where Pastor Eric was the youth pastor in his youth service, a part of his youth group. 13 years later, I go to that very same youth pastor, and I'm like, hey, do you have a connection to Mexico? He says, yes, this place, go. And I go. And it is at that very organization where I meet who would be my wife. How cool is that? So my wife was like a teacher's helper there. She was a teacher's aide. I had met her. I was in a school of missions, and the second semester, at the beginning of the second semester, one of my ministries was to help out in a classroom. And guess what? It was her very classroom where I was helping. And you can probably guess the rest of the story. Yeah, met her. We got married. We have 2 beautiful kids now. Both of them born here in Mexico. My wife can't cross still, so I've been here for 6 years total. And we're in the process of immigrating, getting her her green card so that she can legally be in the U.S. and we can have her experience and learn the language and the culture in Washington, where I'm from. And so, yeah, that's my testimony of how I came to Mexico, how I met my wife. And it's just, it's so beautiful for me looking back. And my wife obviously knows this story. Like, it's a beautiful way of like looking at how the Lord has had his hand on my life. And sure, there were ups and downs, but ultimately he really came through. And something that was maybe a silly dream or just kind of like a non-realistic maybe plan or goal. No real in-depth thinking or planning happened when I was 12 years old thinking about that. You know, it was just like, man, let's go to Mexico. It'd be awesome. And it happened. So that's my testimony of how I got here to Mexico. And I'm eternally grateful to the Lord for trusting in him and trusting, like, man, my heart, like, so many people were telling me, and the most important people in my life were telling me that it was not a good idea, right, to come to Mexico. And I am so thankful that I stuck, that I knew it was real and true in my heart, and I listened to it, because it is so hard to choose that path when those closest to you are against it. And I'm so thankful to the Lord that I really just had faith and knew that I had to do it. And yeah, this is where I am now, and everything I have is because of God, and I'm thankful. That's my testimony. God bless you guys, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video.